In the third episode of the Evolution Show, I debunked some of the most common myths when it comes to electric vehicles, together with the founder of Tesla Club Sweden, Tibor Blomhäll. And today we're going to talk about Tesla again, together with my friend Roberth Hansson. Why Tesla remains in the lead of the electrification and automation, and also the importance of the new Northvolt Gigafactory. This is the Evolution Show. Welcome to the Evolution Show. I'm your host Johan Landgren. The Evolution Show is all about connecting the dots to see the bigger picture and address some of the biggest challenges and opportunities of our time. We focus on smart energy solutions, electric transportation, artificial intelligence, AI, and inspiration for sustainable living. And today we focus on the pioneering company, Tesla, and how it has influenced this new factory in Sweden, the Northvolt Gigafactory. And with me today to talk about this, I have my friend Roberth Hansson. Welcome.
Thank you.
I have known you quite a while. We met during, you can say, the university studies here in Uppsala.
Yeah, and we grew up in the same suburb.
Yeah, we played some, I don't know what you call it, land hockey or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outdoor hockey.
It's similar. You have different sticks, but it's similar to land hockey.
Yeah.
Much smaller.
Yeah.
Goals.
Yeah. I was a goalie. And you played also ice hockey as well in a team.
Yes. I was a passionate hockey player.
Yeah. So yeah, but from sports to something else, you also have a great interest in electrification, and I would say in economics. We'll come back to that, but we have been collaborating on a number of projects through the years. Primarily, perhaps we can mention, of course, this book, Olja för blåbär, or Oil for Dummies, which basically looks at how we can, it looks at electrification, but it looks at our dependence on oil. Yeah.
From a mostly Swedish standpoint.
Yeah. And we also started a blog. It was about 2011 in Sweden, Swedish blog, also called Oil for Dummies or Olja för blåbär, where we also looked at inspiration for how we can transition from our fossil economy to something more sustainable. So we've been collaborating on that, and we have organized some meetings for others that are interested through the years, and writing, test driving electric vehicles.
Yes.
That's something.
And during that period, it's really started the uptick momentum in the electrification of the transport.
Yeah.
Transports.
And you were also with me when I took delivery of my Tesla back in 2014. It's 5 years ago.
Yeah,
so
it's strange. It felt like yesterday, but a lot of things have happened since then, and it feels like yesterday, but it was some time ago.
Yeah. Sorry.
And even if Tesla Model S is that old as a car model, it's still today stands very, very, very strong when it comes to competition. It has no competitors.
No, and we have been
only until last year the Jaguar I-Pace, I believe.
Yeah. You were actually one of the first in Sweden to test drive the I-Pace. You were invited to go there, and you have been driving my Tesla for a number of times. So what's your experience with, if you compare Tesla with I-Pace or perhaps the other vehicles like the Zoe? We have tested that as well.
It's a great car. It's the first car that I really feel is up to the Tesla level, and it's quite significant that it's also it's okay. Jaguar is not a small car manufacturer, but it's not one of the biggest. So in a sense, it feels like car manufacturers that are quite not that super big with all the bureaucracy around it, so it tends to feel that they have to. It's a way to be a bit more agile and quicker to response when it comes to how the market is shaping and taking form.
Yeah, so maybe that they're thanks to that they are a little bit smaller, they can
act more faster.
Yeah,
so.
And that's similar to Tesla as well. They're kind of still a very young company. So
and they came from almost nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And here in Sweden, I think both you and me have seen the change through all this. I mean, just going back these 5 years. 2016, we went for a road trip together in Europe, like 4,300 kilometers or 2,800 miles, something like that. And we went from Stockholm to Belgium to go to a conference there. And it was interesting to see that already in 2016, it was quite easy to go via the supercharging network that Tesla had built.
Super smooth.
Yeah.
And there were and there no crowds whatsoever on the when it comes to time to charge. So
no.
Plenty of free spaces on the charging
Yeah.
stations.
We should do something now again, because now there are much more Teslas, Model 3s and so on, so it might be a little bit different.
Yeah, they're starting to pop up, and they're quite common here in the Stockholm area. So you see them daily.
Yeah, and I think, but they have improved also. So if you see that you're going to a place to charge, you can see how many cars that are already there now with the new update. So you can see that
really smart.
Yeah, that's a smart thing. So
and then you can schedule, or if you don't have to, or
no, you can also go to another charging place, at least in Germany, because they have so many different. So in Sweden we have 12 or 14 stations or something like that. So
when it's, for instance, the iPace, when it comes to charging an iPace today, do you know if they have they built so you have 400 volts, or
I think the car is prepared for it, but and they have built some.
That's something that it's I like about the iSpace, so it's a bit future proof in that sense, but if you lack the infrastructure, that's a really pity.
And that's something we can talk about that a little bit, since we talk about infrastructure. That's one of the advantages, I think, with Tesla still, that the car still they are ahead of most of the competitors in terms of range and so on. But primarily, I think it's the infrastructure that is the very big difference. That you can go anywhere in Europe now.
I would. That's why I would also choose Tesla today as a daily drive as an electric car, since you have much thanks to the infrastructure they have built. So that's also a key element I think you also have to regard when it comes to the value of Tesla as a company, and also a key structure and key element when it comes to value also the brand. Tesla also has a very, very, very strong brand, and that in a sense much of the public and people are looking at the car industry. I think that they can grasp it and have like sort of a sense of feeling, but it's a pain, and it hurts for them to admit it.
Yeah.
And in Sweden we also used to call them dieselgubbar, and in English we can call them diesel dudes, and they no, I don't understand this Tesla, and they don't have like a brand, or what they are not committed, they are not advertising, and they are not throwing tens of $billions into motorsports, and I don't understand the brand and know nothing. But well, it's your point of view, and for you as a customer or as a segment, okay, I'm fine with that. But when it comes to the younger generation, it was a list were published in the paper some weeks ago, where they had asked around which favorite car, and if they could free to choose which car they would buy, and Tesla was on the second page as a number not second as a number second on that list. Volvo was still number one, but they have gained on very, very rapidly on that list from being a small niche.
Yeah, and we're in Volvo land, so I mean,
I don't know if people just have this compulsive reflex, but and they are just tired and wakes up from in the morning, and the first thing they can come up with is Volvo.
And unfortunately they haven't electrified the talk. I remember, was it 7 or 8 years ago, we went to some event where we could see the new like hybrid. I think it was what was
they have electrified. They have plug-in hybrid, and next year they will launch a full electric XC40, the small sub. But it's also it's a car converted to I don't know. They as Volvo it's fully electric, but it's a traditional chassis that you convert into electric. So and that's also like when it comes to being committed, why not develop a full unique chassis so you can use all of the advantage, since an electric motor is so small. So when it comes to weight distribution and so on. So
and you have Polestar, of course, but that's another thing.
It's a sedan, and I think it's pity. Volvo as a brand, they are known for the estates wagon. Why? Well, I haven't seen it. They had it on show on the central station in Stockholm, and I thought it was in the Volvo showroom. So I walked there and I had a nice afternoon chatting with sales staff, and they there, but apparently it was on the central station. So
but it's still I think it's quite it's a premium luxury.
It's a premium, and they are yes, it is, and they are marketing it as a separate this Polestar brand. I don't know if it feels like Volvo is trying to segment the Volvo brand, and they want Polestar to be sort of a Mercedes AMG or BMW M or Audi RS. So they want some sportier, more luxurious. So
but I feel what most people don't understand is that if you haven't driven an electric car, and especially a Tesla, because Tesla has the advantage with the infrastructure, with the range and so on, so you don't have to, I mean, if you drive a Tesla, you know, you have been driven it quite a lot, and you know that you don't have to worry about that, you know, I'm gonna run out of juice. I can go where I want. That's one of the biggest advantages with the Tesla, but there are other things as well. If you think about the automation part, recently Elon Musk went out in a tweet and he said that by the end of this year they will have introduced the possibility of a Tesla self-driving Tesla fleet. The technology will be there in the car, and the software will be, both hardware and software will be there. Of course, regulations and so on will have to come as well with that. But it will be ready by the end of this year, and early next year they will start on certain markets if it's going to be allowed with the regulation and so on. I guess in the US and so on. So that's also something with Tesla, that they, technology-wise, they're still in the forefront. They're moving ahead all the time. And you mentioned that 2012, I mean, the first Model S, is still, you know, better than any other electric car out there.
Yeah, when it comes to range, performance, and and other key features, as infotainment systems and so forth, still today it doesn't feel like an old car, and and they are very popular around among the cab, taxi companies here in Sweden. They are purchasing a used Model S in significant number.
Yeah, you can see them, especially in Stockholm area.
Yeah, and I've seen some. They have aftermarket details. They have other grills and which didn't used to come as standard on Tesla. And one of days I wonder, this cab, it looks a bit familiar, and it was, and I've seen it as a private leased or previously, and now it's owned by a taxi company. So
I think it was a taxi driver who had been driving a Tesla Model S for 540,000 kilometers. And he had, just made regular services and things like that, but it's still, in terms of range in the battery, so it's still fine. So that's kind of interesting. Just to mention this Tesla taxi network for people who don't know, that he had his investment conference. Tesla had his investment conference where Elon Musk spoke, and he said that they will offer owners of new Model 3s that are selling now, and also Tesla Model S and Model X going back to late 2016, I think, when they introduced this self-driving technology, and they will allow the owners of these cars to use them in the self-driving Tesla network. So other people, once this technology is allowed on the roads to be fully self-driving, it can drive people around, and Tesla takes a cut of 25 to 30% of this. So if you let's say you have a Model 3. And you let the car drive around other people, Tesla will take 25-30% of that, and they will also make other cars that fill out the.
When it comes to responsibility, if the car breaks down or an accident occurs, how do you know how it will work then?
It's still the policy for Tesla is that you are responsible at the moment, if you at this moment. But then it's something else. I mean, if it's fully self-driving, you're not in the car. So I would guess that it will be the Tesla network that is responsible. I mean, Tesla, if they're driving it, if they are operating it, they should be responsible, I think.
And if they have quite good margins, if they can cut in between and take 25-30%, so then they might also, most likely it will be covered by some sort of insurance or so. Probably
that's
those costs would probably cover it up. Believe.
And they also will offer if you're going to lease a car today from Tesla, if you lease a car on new Model 3, they say that after 3 years lease, you're not allowed to buy the car. Tesla will take it and use it in the new Tesla network, taxi network. And that's also a signal of that they are really going to work towards expanding this Tesla network and have still, going back to being in the lead. So what do you think?
I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, Elon was out tweeting that Tesla will stop manufacturing cars.
Yes, so, and that was a big deal. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And that, but what he meant by that is that he's, of course, promoting people to buy them now, because he says that in a couple of years they will still sell cars, but they will be much more expensive, because then if you're going to, they are actually, you're going to gain value. I mean, if you think about it logically, it will be true. I mean, if you have a car that can be used, and he said this on the investment.
It might be true if they don't have any competition. So if Tesla wouldn't have any competition, but we don't know if Waymo or General Motors or some other competition will occur. And you have the Swedish Active Security Pioneer, which is a spin-off from Autoliv, who's manufacturing a world leader in passive, and but it's some sort. The market has began to be a bit more skeptic when it comes to valuation. Especially, we have seen the stock of Veoneer dropped pretty much during this last year. It began in the autumn during the fear for all this the trade war and a bit anxiety evaluation about when it comes to some tech companies. So I don't know if we're starting to see a classic S curve, sort of speak, when it comes to the classic tech S curve, and the EU have in the pipeline some sort of regulation when it comes to self-driving. It's pretty harsh. I don't know if it could be fair since we don't know have the facts straight.
Yeah, I think it's if you think about EU, I think it's very much about regulation. They want to have control of the income of tax revenue and so on, to see how can, both security-wise, of course, but apart from that, it's also a way of how can we make money from this kind of new growing industry, because it's going to have a huge impact. Just going back to this investment call Tesla, Elon Musk talked about, he said that a Model 3 could save, you can make money, you can make $30,000 per year. And there was an analyst that heard this and said that's a very low value if you think about this logically. If you have a car that's going around 90-95%, and even if it's, you have to service it and so on, it's still, as a taxi service, you can make a lot of money on having a car going around all the time. So that can be a in terms for Tesla, a new money maker for this company. And just going back to what you said about competition, I would argue that at current moment there is no competitor that comes even close to Tesla, because Tesla has the advantage of data. They have been driving cars now with the technology for 2-3 years, and that's very important when you think about them driving this neural network. They're training this neural network, and that's also something to mention. They have developed their own chip, their own computer, just to train the neural network, and it basically is a human brain that learns by driving. And other car makers have not this kind of data. You mentioned Waymo and so on, but they all have very few vehicles, and in comparison, very little data. So there, I think at least Tesla has the advantage.
Yeah, first mover advantage.
yeah. But still, we don't know about the regulators. But
they have first mover advantage when it comes to electrification and the batteries.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you mentioned, their cars are out there.
Yeah, and they're learning.
Yes.
Yeah, and they used to use this NVIDIA card. They still have some collaboration with NVIDIA, but they learned from NVIDIA, and they made their own platform, AI platform, to be more efficient. So it was only adapted for the Tesla cars.
And when it comes to, as I understand it, when it comes to self-driving capabilities, they are not going with the LiDAR system. Tesla is going all with
cameras and ultra sonar.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's also.
And also, when you do it requires more. Does it requires more powerful?
Yeah, computer. Yeah, exactly. So that's also why they probably made this decision. And also,
it's a bold thing. So if they can pull it off, I think they also have some.
Yeah.
Definite advantage, since they're competitors and and you have some alliances between manufacturers to the automotive industries and automotive companies, and they seem to be more reliant on leaders.
LiDAR.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that apparently it works, but I don't know if it's today, if it's more expensive technology, but
yeah, as I understood it, the LiDAR has to collect. You have to program it to certain situations, and it cannot. You cannot train the neural network the same way with the LiDAR. It's easier to use cameras. Cameras are basically eyes. So for the human, for us humans, we drive in different situations and we learn from them. And if you use like 8 cameras or 6 or 8 cameras, as Tesla does, they can collect data from all kind of angles all the time. As I understood, the LiDAR is front-looking, collecting like you can see like it's kind of squares, and you have to pre-program a lot of data into the LiDAR, as I understood it. I'm not an expert, but I think there are some differences there that at least Tesla has.
Yeah, previously you have an expert neighbor here in the building.
Oh yes,
Anna.
Yeah,
and she's been here. What's her view when it comes to?
She is very clear on that. The problem with self-driving technology is that in order for it to work, to be efficient, we have to share the vehicles, because the research tells them right now that if you just make the cars self-driving, you may have the problem of having cars driving everywhere, but they're half empty, and that will potentially double the cars.
Yeah.
So you mean the LiDAR
yes,
curve?
I can see when it comes to when it comes to transportation, if it's a dense public area or the traffic situation, but it's also have to do with some our vad ska man säga, dygnsrytm eller liksom, daily routine, routine,
exactly,
and schedule. So
and the research has not looked at, for example, how would self-driving car work in the countryside, because in the countryside it's the distances are longer, and you have perhaps fewer people in a certain area. So you can't, for example, have small minibuses coming and going in the same way. You have to have more of them going out, being on the road. So that there are challenges there, but going back to LiDAR and cameras, which one will be the winner in the end? It's impossible to say, but it seems to be, as I understood, it's some advantages at least with the Tesla version, but who knows in the end?
And you don't know regulation. For
No.
instance, here in Europe, if they or the bigger manufacturers, I don't know. I think also believe Continental is working and have some solutions on this big German company. Supplier to the automotive industries.
You mean
or,
in
or if they will lobby through EU, and you have to have LiDAR, so
I will see.
If you want to go with full
Yeah.
self-driving automation, you have to go with LiDAR, so otherwise we will ban you, or you can.
I really hope not, because
and to be able to drive on densely populated area in cities, you have to go with LiDARs. I don't know.
No.
You can only speculate. But
going over to something else, BMW Ceo, he stepped down. He's going to step down in April. There's been a lot of talk about that recently in media and so on. But
they also changed CEO recently. I think it was last year on Daimler. And they performing well when it comes to racing in Formula 1, but they have some troubles getting up the sales. So
I read about Daimler yesterday. Their first quarter was a record loss. It was a loss compared to a huge kind of huge revenue the last quarter. So they have problems.
And when it comes to valuation of the car companies, they are value-wise, some people, and also when it comes to, we talked previously on these called diesel dudes, or people have they see and look on things from a different or different angle or perspective. So when you first glimpse of the companies, they see, some of them are posting pretty good profits, and they have really, really low valuation when it's PE wise, price through earnings, and but the more also when it comes to the last financial crisis, 2008, 09 there, and these companies have they are so big, and they have they have to have enormous amount of sales to
make ends meet. I mean, it's they're big elephants,
and their margins are really super thin. And so now they also they are locked up. They have to provide, and they have invested a lot in this old technology when it comes to the combustion engines and drivetrains and so on, and they also have to invest a lot in this new area. Which most of them, I believe, has underinvested in.
Another thing that we have to mention is that the big advantage for Tesla, or for any car maker right now going into the EV market, is that you're so reliant on the batteries, the lithium batteries. And what Tesla has done is they built the biggest lithium battery factory in the world, which today is producing lithium batteries. They have a 50% share of the whole world's production. One company. And the rest of the companies, they actually have
together with Panasonic.
They're together with Panasonic, correct?
So
yes,
it's a joint venture.
Absolutely, yes. So together with Panasonic, but the other car makers, they don't have this. They are reliant on primarily Chinese and Korean battery makers, and we don't have any big battery factory in Europe. We have a number of them, smaller ones.
And when the first Model S and you can see the Nissan Leaf when it rolled out, and we don't want to manufacture electric cars today because the batteries are so expensive. So we just wait a couple of years, and the price of batteries they will begin to, due to technology advantage, and we cannot manufacture this low amount of. We have to have bigger volume. And today when they, we will begin to manufacture finally. We have designed a electric model, but no, we can't supply this in these vast amounts of volume because we don't have the batteries. So that's a bit funny.
And in for example in Norway, the Volkswagen the small one, what is it called? The classic,
the Golf.
The Golf, the Golf E.
They haven't.
Golf E, yeah. The demand for that, especially in Norway, was so high, but it couldn't supply them, and they said, we don't have batteries. So that's another example. So Tesla, that's a huge advantage, and it's kind of, as you said, it's funny and weird to look at it because they should have learned. It's been a number of years now.
They have done something, some of them, and you have the BMW i cars, and you have Nissan, and especially the Hyundai have some models. But they have trying to postpone it and trying to kick the can a bit further down the road.
Exactly. So that's
the day of reckoning is here, about to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And now there's a big hype, of course, with the Volkswagen ID3 model. And I mean, after, I don't know, if a couple.
Why do they call them ID3?
I don't know.
And it's the BMW, I say, okay, I give it up to BMW. You have your brand and I brand, but
I don't know. It's personalizing this new eco network, whatever you call it. But it's what's interesting is that the site crashed after a couple of days. Demand was overwhelming for Volkswagen ID3, and then they said, okay, shit, we have to produce these cars. And then they contacted, when they started to ask their suppliers, they said, oh, sorry, the supplier said we can only supply you with, I don't know, 40% or something. We don't have these numbers. And it shouldn't be a surprise for them that if you have 50% of the production in one company, Tesla, and all the big manufacturers, the rest of the manufacturers have to share the rest, obviously there's going to be a shortage. So that's what why I wanted us to move on to.
But things are picking up.
Yes.
Here in Sweden and
Yeah.
the northern parts of Europe. So,
Yes.
and his name is Peter Karlsson.
Yeah.
And he's also he has been working with Tesla. He was in charge for their supply chain. He has a history. I believe he's worked with semiconductors industry in Southeast Asia, and he left Tesla, and
2016, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has really it looks like he has made it and pulled together financing of this huge battery factory here in Sweden, and he's called the project and the factory for Northvolt, and now it has developed into a joint venture with Volkswagen and
BMW.
But
and
Volkswagen, are they one of the bigger, or
they're one of the bigger? The biggest one is this European Investment Bank.
Investment Bank.
Yeah,
Yes.
they put in a loan of $3.7 billion, Swedish crowns. Sorry, $394 million. Yeah. So, and then you had Goldman Sachs also, one of the bigger ones, and the Swedish pension funds. And the one they're going to build the factory together with ABB, the big Swedish company. So, and they have a lot of robots and so on. So they, of course, they want to show the world that look at our super robots,
fully automated
factory. Yeah.
Yes.
And just to mention, the factory in Skellefteå in Northvolt, in northern Sweden, they're going to build. They have just finished the funding secured for this first factory, and it will be 16 gigawatt hour factory. That's, if you just compare that with something, it's the Tesla Gigafactory right now is 22 gigawatt hours. So this is the biggest one, going to be the biggest one in Europe when it's finished. They're going to start begin production in 2021 with the aim of having a capacity of 200,000 to 300,000 electric vehicles a year. I mean, battery for 200 and 300 electric vehicles.
And that's not even annual sales of Tesla. Today's Tesla is most likely
400 something like
yes.
that. I don't know exactly, but something like that. Yeah.
Or if they can
that's a good
squeeze
point.
it a bit more.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if you want to compare it,
that's a good point. And Peter Karlsson has mentioned that Europe needs about 10 gigafactories of this size of 16 gigawatts minimum to meet the demand right now.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. So, and to mention also here that Volkswagen, why they stepped in, that's one of my I thought we could talk a little bit about, but they want to have a blueprint of this factory in Germany. So once this is finished, 2022 and 2023, I think, in 2 years' time after 2021, they want a copy of this for Volkswagen. So that's why they're also interested. First, they want to see, okay, does it work? Yes, it will work, hopefully, and then they were going to build another one in collaboration with Northvolt. So yeah, it's very interesting. And my question was a little bit like, why do you think we've talked a little bit about it, but why do you think BMW and Volkswagen has waited so long to invest in this large battery factory? Was it because you said they're already invested in combustion engine, or did they want to see some outside company producing I mean, one can really wonder, I think.
It's really mind blowing when also regarding how many cars they are manufacturing. I think BMW it's most close to 2 million cars per year. I don't know Volkswagen with all the brands. They're one of the biggest car manufacturers, so I don't know if they really thought that it would be this popular so quick. That's this snowball that started to tumble when Tesla launched their Model S, or they just thought, it will be a niche product, so with small, compact EVs, fully EV cars, electric cars, such as Nissan Leaf, and it would be a sort of a smaller niche. I don't really know. They probably know the top dogs of those companies. They probably have some good. They probably know if you would get a honest honest opinion. I don't know. No. I think it's also strange how the perception from the car industry have changed over the years. So when the sales started to pick up with the Model S, and you had some accidents in the beginning and some fires, and they were just go, "Oh, Model S, isn't that the car? It always caught on fire." But how many fires do you have from your combustion engines annually every year? Yeah. And then some years later, but the battery is so expensive, and it's pretty funny, the reaction. And nowadays there's Tesla, isn't they about to go bankrupt? Yeah. So that's the started to talk. It was last year. One of the big Swedish car companies, and someone from the pretty high up in the organization, and he was just going by, Tesla, isn't they about to go bankrupt? So
I would worry more about the big ones. I think they have a huge challenge because they are big moving elephants, and they are slow on the train. But also, I think
I wouldn't be puzzled if you have one of the bigger European or German that in 10 years time the brand would probably be still here, but I don't know if they will end up in some merge with another company, or they will go bust.
Yeah. You can see that trend, I think, also with Renault now announcing, I think it was, they are with Nissan, but there are other joint ventures. It seems like, I read about Ford and Volkswagen now that they're going to work on some AI self-driving platform. They're going to share the cost and so on. It's a way of them, of course.
Yeah, and you probably have you have many companies who are also suppliers to the car industry, and they're also strange when it comes to valuation. Many of the suppliers to the automotive industry, they have pretty high valuation of the companies, but the automotive companies themselves has low valuations.
Yeah. And just to mention, I mean, for most people they might not know, but this Northvolt factory here in Sweden, it's a huge deal. I mean, it's all of the industry is talking about it, basically. It's ABB. We have
ABB. Their Swedish headquarters here in Västerås.
Yeah.
It's not very far away from here, from Uppsala and Stockholm, and they were planning on building the factory there, but Amazon, they were a bit quicker to throw up a server hall, and so they were, we don't have the capacity.
No, the electric power capacity. No, exactly. But they're going to have a small kind of headquarter and research facility, the Northvolt. So they have a research facility in Västerås, and they have already developed kind of a battery for the mining industry via some subsidiary. I don't remember the name, but so they have already, and there was, I think it was 150 kilowatt hour battery, something like that.
I don't know if it was one of the Swedish companies, or if it was Sandviken, or if it was Epiroc.
Epiroc, I think I remember that. Epiroc. It was Epiroc. Yes. Good.
It's a spin-off from Atlas Copco.
Yeah, good. Yes. So that's already in the pipeline, and they're working. And there also, just to mention an interesting thing with Northvolt, Peter Carlson. He has learned a lot from Tesla. So people are asking him, okay, where will you get your lithium, and where will you get your cobalt and so on? And they're working on having the lithium from Finland, some mines there, and they will have cobalt from other places. And also he said that if it's going to come from Congo, they will make certain that it's not from slavery or from child labor, because Congo is a big place, so that you don't have to think about that so much. But they are working a lot with recycling. So he said that in an interview I read that the best thing would be to be able to take a used battery, put it back in the Northvolt factory, and reuse all the materials. But because today, if you're going to reuse a battery, you all have to melt everything together, and you can't get any lithium out. You can get some nickel, some manganese maybe, and aluminum, but the lithium you can't get. So they're working on making this happen.
And when it comes to production cost, the lithium itself it's expensive, but it isn't that expensive, and we have lithium almost everywhere.
Yeah.
It's about the cost to extract it.
Yeah.
We have tons of lithium in seawater, but if you want to desal it takes so much energy.
Yeah.
So it won't be competitive with the ones from mining or salty deserts.
No. So just to wrap up about the Tesla part before we move on to some last questions, is that if you think about the things we talked about, we think about the batteries. Tesla has the advantage there. They have their own production. They're developing their own hardware for the AI and platform, so that's also a big advantage. And of course, infrastructure.
Yeah.
And if you add them all together, for me, it's kind of bizarre to talk about Tesla killers coming every time. Every single quarter is a new Tesla killer. Instead of
there won't be any Tesla killers. No. There will be competitors to Tesla, and so the market is big enough for everyone.
Yeah.
At least for Tesla and competitors.
Yeah, for
Tesla,
several years. Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, our main message here. That I encourage people to test electric vehicles, to experience them firsthand. And as you said, I think it's a good point you said, the diesel dudes. A lot of people, they have never experienced. They don't know how it is.
Now, you always tend, and also when it comes to myself, you tend to look at things and value them from your own perspectives, so to say. And that's one of the, I think, the mistakes when it comes to Tesla and short sellers regarding Tesla, and they are so locked in their own their own mind and their own perspective, so they refuse to see. And Tesla also, they have a different business model when it comes to which also is a key features. Going back to 2012, you remember when we used to call Tesla over in Great Britain and writing them. So, do you need sales rep in Sweden or?
So, that was fun.
But now
you have to tell that story.
So.
You had an idea. There was a couple of guys just here in Sweden that they were looking for start an office here. They didn't have any.
That was 2013.
Something
they
like
were they were Danish employees. They have been selling Tesla and Tesla Roadster in Norway and Denmark. I think it was a company that had some licenses to sell them, or if Tesla just took that over, or they would just started working for Tesla. But since EVs and Tesla, even the Roadster, it was quite expensive in its days and sort of a niche product.
It's a sports car.
It was popular in Norway, and they have had for many years. So they are a bit cheaper too. In Norway, they don't have any value added tax added to them, or any import charges. So they have all for a long time. So, and the Roadster was also popular in Norway.
And I remember you told me, like, in the beginning, Tesla, when they were going to start on the Swedish market, that he said, come on, they need a good place to show the cars, and we should help them, and they're so slow, come on, we can make this. That was kind of fun. But eventually they established a place, and still I think they need more service places. They have in Gothenburg and Malmö and the biggest cities in Stockholm, but they should have one.
I think it's probably tricky for the ones living in northern parts of Sweden. So they have. So I don't know. Their closest is in Stockholm,
No.
so
Yeah, and they talk about this mobile service that they will go out,
Yeah.
but that works maybe in the 80% of the time. But if you have to lift the car up and so on, you need to go there. And but I think that hopefully they'll work that out. But yeah, but then finally, I think since the point with this channel is also to kind of help to accelerate the transition. Do you have any ideas or do you think that this is kind of this snowball is going to move by itself now, that once you have this Northvolt company, Northvolt factory coming, that's a huge deal for Europe, but that others will build. I know that they will build in Germany a copy, and we have Daimler working on something similar. So, or do you think we should find other ways?
The demand is already there, and it's not. Yeah, people are discovering it, and the technology is proven to work. So, and you don't read and talk about range anxiety anymore. So, I think so. It's. Yeah, the demand is there, so the snowball is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
as it goes. So
yeah. Do you have any other thoughts about Northvolt or Tesla? You think we should emphasize that people should know about, or that we haven't talked about?
Well, maybe the worst have been if we have this automotive and here in Sweden, the cluster, and it's a pretty big part of the economy. It's many people that are employed. We have two of the biggest truck companies here,
Volvo and Scania.
So I hope they can also make use of it. Use of this.
Yeah,
so
we can mention early in the process. I think Scania is a kind of a partner of some kind. Haven't been funding. I think
they're
Northvolt.
owned by. Volkswagen,
yes,
and they have recently spinned off the trucking part. Triton or something with a T.
I think it's Triton. Yeah,
Triton.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. So that's
MAN and Scania and
yeah. So Sweden has been locked in for a long time because of these big companies. They have their interest, and since they have not been in the head of the game when it comes to electrification, Sweden has also been kind of, the government and so on has been very slow on helping others. That's not been it's been a kind of a conflict between the Swedish industry and on one hand, and new startups like Tesla and so on. So that's kind of.
But yeah, things can pick up.
Yeah.
Great by themselves if you have free market, and you have. And also when it comes to Tesla, you have investors who are willing to take risk.
Yeah,
that's a big key part of Element. It's willing and to take risk and just go out there and pioneer. And that's what they have really been doing. They are pioneering.
Northvolt can become a game changer both for Sweden and for Europe. So it's going to be very interesting to follow that. So
I heard you will have a real energy expert here on the show, Mikael Höök. I met him a couple of times, and it was quite some year ago. I had this argue with him about energy density when it comes to lithium batteries as an energy carrier, and I would like to forward this question if he still thinks that it's a poor carrier when it comes to energy density.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah,
He was not against electric vehicles, but he had his objections.
Yeah.
So it would be fun to hear him elaborate a bit on the issue.
Definitely good, and it's always good to have a question to forward. So that's definitely I will ask him that. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation, Robert. Thanks for coming.
Likewise.
If you enjoyed this conversation as well, feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. In the next episode, we'll talk to Mikael Höök. He's an energy expert at the Global Energy Systems at Uppsala University, and we're going to talk about global energy macro trends. As always, we appreciate your feedback. Was it good or bad? If you want to see the videos as soon as they come out, consider subscribing. I hope to see you in 2 weeks for the next episode.